Penis FLYTRAP. I'm going to pass out.
Holy shit. All right. Yeah. Penis FLYTRAP.
Pedophiles in the tribe.
Correct.
What's up, folks? This is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim. I'm here with the Whiteophile.
Okay.
Pat Kelly, White Boy Pat. I wasn't going to make you pedo.
I was going to say, fuck. What's up? Whiteophile.
Welcome to another episode of The Pressure Project. It took us about 5 minutes to start the episode today.
Yeah.
Just because of that goddamn title.
The title's a rough one.
It's rough.
That's a rough title.
So this is about as composed as we could make ourselves.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
sure we'll get more and more composed as we get into the subject matter.
Right.
But
So-
the title's fucked up.
The title is fucking hilarious, but you know, I like ringing the bells.
Yep.
So today we're going to talk about pedophiles. I guess before we start that, let's go over some housekeeping. Thepressureproject.com is our website. Info@thepressureproject.com is our contact email. We do appreciate you guys checking out these episodes. Oh, youtube.com // The Pressure Project. We had a gentleman, I have to find his name right now because I like giving credit, and he told me that he was like, look, you guys are totally screwing up the / thing. Here he is. Jimbo Slice. I told him I'd thank him for that. He says, enjoying your podcast. Want to let you know you guys are mixing up your / and your / when you're giving out URL. Web URLs never use backslashes. Also, you guys were discussing bourbon Scotch whiskeys a few weeks ago. There are probably 1 to 2 dozen different types of whiskey. Bourbon and Scotch are both whiskey. Keep up the good work. Well, you too. We hate that your shout out needs to be during the pedophile episode, Jimbo, but we appreciate the assistance nonetheless. Okay, so pedophiles. Now, why did we want to do this episode? Well, there's a couple reasons.
Yep.
Number one, this is episode 99.
99.
One more till episode 100.
That is correct.
There are a lot of reasons. One of the biggest reasons for me, and obviously you were more than willing to join along, was that I'm about to have my first daughter.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, my wife and I, we have three boys, and this is our fourth child, and it's going to be a little girl.
Yeah.
So I find myself worrying about shit that I never worried about before. And this is one of those topics where I'm like, all right. And the way we do things, we normally do this for everything. This is really no different. We don't want the real rep to be the first rep.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're designing protocols and designing, good habits and the rules of engagement, if you want, it's important that you think about it logically, you think about it beforehand, before any emotion gets thrown into the mix. So this is how this thing has been coming up in my mind, and I figured, you know what, let's flesh this thing out. Let's talk about some info, some stories of good and bad, and let's make it happen from there. So most of the time when you hear pedophile, you think, oh, kid fucker.
Yes.
This guy fucking a kid. This girl fucking a kid. And that's right. That's right.
Yeah. I usually think guy fucking a kid.
Well, I think most of pedophiles are actually men.
Yeah.
Or male. But upon further research, we found out there are all these other categories that I think are rightfully that have been rightfully created. And this is like one of those topics where, man, shit really starts to get like gray area and, like what is MC talking about? Is he saying it's okay to do this and not okay? Well, let me break it down. Yeah. I've always contended, and I've even done this, I think, on past, I think it was the rape episode.
The really rape.
Yeah, really rape. I had said, we cannot equate, or I think I posed it as a question, do we want to equate, the 30-year-old man who has sex with a 16-year-old girl with a 30-year-old man who has sex with the 2-year-old girl. And I don't think it really takes much to say, of course not.
Yeah.
Two totally different people.
Completely different things.
And the issue is, both socially and legally, there are circumstances by which they could be considered the same infraction.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to realize that, although all of us have our own, orientations and our own collection of I guess, turn-ons, preferences, sexual preferences.
Yeah.
There is a certain point where, you start to move into a victim creating circumstance.
100%.
And
you
I
don't
think,
want to create victims.
right. And that is a huge difference, when talking about these categories. So there are age groups, right? And there's a man by the name of Dr. Blanchard. He had pushed these subgroups or these groups, these terms to be included in the DSM-5, and they sort of change, or they denote the different age groups for sexual preference, starting with, unfortunately, birth, and moving on up. So we're just going to cover a couple of those right now. All right, so infantophilia. Infantophilia is as bad as it sounds. It's a sexual preference for toddlers and infants, usually ages 0 to 3.
That's fucking insane.
So there are people out there that sexually fulfill themselves by having sexual relations, admittedly, not full-on penetration, but, everything but with infants. And we'll get to our take on these people next, but let's just get through this.
Okay.
After that, you have a slightly more broad topic, which includes infantophilia, which is pedophilia. And pedophilia is the primary or exclusive sexual attraction to prepubescent children. Okay, so children, both boys and girls, who have not yet entered the stages of puberty. After pedophilia, you have hebephilia. Now, hebephilia, and it's Hebe, is the primary or exclusive adult sexual interest in pubescent individuals, approximately 11 to 14 years old. Okay, so notice the difference. Infantophilia, a sexual preference for; pedophilia, a sexual attraction to. Now we're saying an adult sexual interest in, right? So now obviously the definitions will start to include the realistic probability of intercourse.
Yeah.
With an 11 to 14-year-old. So now I was sexually active as a teenager. You told me you were sexually active as a teenager.
Yeah.
Was it like 19 and a half for you?
No.
See, that's a guy thing, right?
Yeah,
it's a guy thing.
wasn't.
When did you have sex when you were 19?
No.
I was already taking the first break from sex at 19. Right? It's a guy thing, right?
It is.
But as much as we joke around about it, in my, I'd like to say the Bronx, this was, common, but I'm sure all over it was common. I knew girls from 11 to 14, probably a little bit closer to 14, who were not only sexually active, but had kids.
Yeah. Not so much where I was from, but.
Yeah, like you have, probably not.
No.
But, these are girls with kids.
Yeah, 15-year-old
like
girl with kids.
Seeing a girl in school that had a kid, wasn't out of the blue, completely out of the ordinary, So, when you're talking about hebephilia, you're talking about an age group. And this is, if you guys know about the Tanner stages of puberty, you have, and this is a stage sort of category list developed by Professor James M. Tanner and it talks about the lessons, or excuse me, these different levels or stages of puberty. And it goes from stage 1, which is pre-puberty, prepubescent. This would be the pedophiles, the people who have the sexual interest in these people. Then it goes to stage 2, and stage 2 is when you have the onset of the of puberty and all the changes that come along with it. There are a lot of, and I'm not a doctor, but there are a lot of physical changes that occur during puberty. Not only the secondary sexual characteristic changes that that boys and girls endure, but a lot of different changes. But once that happens, which is usually ages 11 to 14, a sexual interest in that group would be considered a hebephiliac. No, hebephile. Hebephile, following the same conjugation, right? Hebephile.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so 11 to 14. All right, pedophilia, pedophile before puberty. 11 to 14, or usually the first stage of puberty, hebephilia. The next group we have is ephebophilia. Now, ephebophiles,
right? A phebophile.
It's like insomniacs. I keep wanting to put the axe at the
end.
Like
a necrophiliac?
Right, exactly. So that's what's throwing me off.
That's what's throwing you off.
So
phebophiles.
Is the ephebophilia is the primary or exclusive adult sexual interest in mid to late adolescence, generally ages 15 to 19. So this is now, this includes, most legal ages of consent.
It does.
So although there is a category there, I think of note, it begins at 15. And what they're trying to denote here is those last stages of puberty.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have the more sort of all-encompassing group of pedohebephilia, which refers to an expansion and reclassification of pedophilia and hebephilia with subgroups proposed during the development of the DSM-5, and that was by Dr. Blanchard, I believe, who began these different categories, and it includes pedophilia and hebephilia. Right? So,
okay,
let's just say, a man, let's say a 20-year-old man, right? 25. Let's make him 25.
25.
25-year-old, if he is a phebephiliac, why do I keep saying that? If he is a phebephiliac, we don't know what the hell he is because that word doesn't exist. If he is an ephebophile, he's having sex with a girl between 15 to 19.
Yeah.
So same class, right? Same, mental illness classification, or I guess psychological.
Yeah.
Right? Psychiatric, psychological classification. But the DSM is for disorders, right? For mental disorders. So if this is in the DSM, or maybe that's not in the DSM, maybe that's just a sort of, a development of these categories to see it through, the earlier categories of which are classified as mental disorders.
Yeah, that makes
maybe
sense.
That's it.
That works.
Speculating, but
that works.
You guys understand what I'm saying. The 25-year-old has sex with a 19-year-old. We think of him a certain way. Has sex with a 15-year-old completely differently.
Yeah.
Right? Both legally and socially. Now, maybe our social reaction is a result of the legal reaction, right? Or the connotation created by law.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth noting that according to psychologists, same classification.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a pretty big fucking jump.
Right. But you know what I'll add, because I don't think I'm being completely forthcoming with the information. It also is meant to denote the end of puberty.
Yeah.
So puberty is done. Okay.
All the way done. Yeah.
Right. And, again, we all know young ladies who are done and fully developed at 15.
Yeah. And
other ladies who, it takes a little bit longer. Right. So 25-year-old has sex with a 15 to 19-year-old. Let's say 17, put it right in the middle. he's courting disaster. He's towing the line.
It really depends on what state.
Right. Depends on what's it, but this is where we are now. We're not, it's not an immediate, whatever.
Yeah, he's towing the line.
Right.
Because she's still in high school. He's 25.
Right.
He's a couple years removed from high school. So.
Right. So now you have an 18-year-old.
Okay.
18-year-old guy. He has sex with a 14-year-old. Senior having sex with a freshman.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah, that was me.
So now
I was 14. I was a 14-year-old.
And how old's the guy? Because we said guy.
The girl
had sex with a 14-year-old. You said that was me.
No, age-wise.
Look, stud muffin. You want to do a new fucking... Let's do a new category.
Age-wise.
Why Pat is a stud muffin?
Age-wise.
Were you blueberry? What kind of muffin you want to be?
Stud
muffin.
Chocolate chip.
Honey dip. All right.
Yeah.
Baby, anyway, take a ride.
It was a girl.
It was a girl?
Yeah.
Okay. So stop making me laugh during a pedophile episode.
We have to laugh. We always have to laugh.
Or else we'll cry.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but we always have to laugh.
All right. So 18-year-old has sex with a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
There are circumstances by which it is going to be towing the line, but there are also circumstances that everybody sort of understands. Yeah, that happens.
Sure.
Without all of that, uproar. 25-year-old man has sex with a 14-year-old girl. Everybody wants him in jail.
Yep.
Same girl.
Okay.
2 different ages. Inconsistent logical position, I would contend.
Yeah.
And the reason, whether you agree with me or not, it doesn't matter. And just bear with me for a second, listeners. Now we get to what age is ever acceptable to have sex with a 10-year-old or lower? None.
Yeah. 0.
None.
There's not a single person.
An 11-year-old boy has sex with a 10-year-old girl. 11-year-old boy is going into a fucking hospital. There is no justification. There is no gray area. There is no logical, biological reasoning behind having sex with a 10-year-old or younger.
Agreed.
It is sick every single time. So now you do have these extreme cases where you will have stage 2 commence, at 10, at 9. Girls starts menstruating at 9, starts developing secondary sexual characteristics at 10. But socially, it is so, I will say it's so uncommon and socially so abhorred universally. Yes. It's just not something that happens. So we could very much collectively say that when you're a pedophile, somebody who has a sexual attraction to a prepubescent child, you are always wrong.
100%.
Right. So now they took homosexuality out of the DSM, I believe.
Oh, yeah?
They said it's not a mental disorder. I would contend that it is.
Okay.
And let me explain why.
Just throw that out there.
Just throwing that out there. Because it is not normal. It is not a normal development. And it's not a normal development of sexual identity. And I would say somebody who is homosexual, based on what I'm saying should be classified as a mental disorder, is somebody who would not want to procreate with the opposite sex.
Okay.
I would say you have, and we've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
But you have completely homosexual.
Yes.
You have the gray area, and you have completely heterosexual.
Agreed.
Right? And most of us fall in that gray area. Whenever I say that to guys and they're like, no, I'm fucking completely heterosexual. And I'm always like, who's better looking, this guy or this guy? Well, this guy's better. Oh, there you go. Fag.
That's funny.
But just to get that out of the way.
Yeah. Sure.
But all that being, even though it's a mental disorder, meaning it's just atypical and abnormal. Well, you're born that way. Well, you know what? I agree. Oh, all right.
Sure.
Well, it's normal to me. Oh, well, okay. Well, that's actually an argument for anything being called normal then.
Exactly.
It's normal for you.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to just understand, our positioning on these things.
Yep.
And you know what? I think it's worth noting too that, 99 over 100 episodes at this time, even though we're not on 100. Sometimes, guys got to play catch up. They haven't seen all the things. So
Yeah.
I don't want to ever make any assumptions that our position's already established and everybody knows.
True.
This might be the first, hey, penis flytrap, pedophiles in the tribe.
They're like, yeah, I want to watch that one.
These people might show up like, who the fuck, what are these guys talking about?
True.
Right?
It's very true.
So I want to get that out there. All right. So back to, pedophilia, it is never okay.
It's never okay.
Now,
or justifiable or anything even
Right.
close to that.
right. So I will say that I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2, soon to be 3-year-old. I have my little girl. She should be here probably within the next month or so.
That's fucking crazy.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
If they were ever molested by a pedophile, and this isn't something this is bad protocol on my end to say this, but I would murder them. They would have to run. They would have to find a way to make sure I never ever found them.
Yeah.
Because I would murder them and it would be brutal. And it would be probably the most violent state I could ever imagine bringing myself to is sort of acting out revenge for the abuse of one of my children.
Yeah.
So
I would let the state handle it.
I would call the police.
Call the police.
And hope that they put him away for a long time.
I would let someone else do violence for me.
No, it
would be.
That's like one of these things where, it's, and you guys, you guys that have children, not that you even have to have children to agree, but you understand what I mean. The thought of one of my children, my very sort of vulnerable, innocent children. Now the notion of my daughter, like, it adds a whole nother element to it. It's just, I don't think there's really anything that could get me, to that level of motivation.
Yeah. Just a pair of pliers and a blowtorch time.
Right. So
medieval.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
So,
anyway,
as I think, so there, we're not the only ones that feel that way.
No.
And
no, we're not at all.
And there have been people who have unfortunately been thrust into those situations.
Yes, very unfortunately. But the results.
The results are the results. So let's go over a couple of them.
Sure.
Let you read them.
Okay. So the first one, the Texas father. They never gave this guy's name. He was commended for killing a man he allegedly caught sexually assaulting his 4-year-old daughter behind his horse barn outside Shiner, Texas. According to the sheriff, the toddler was behind the barn with the alleged abuser while the rest of the family was tending to horses. The father heard screaming coming from the barn and arrived to find the man molesting his daughter. He reacted by striking him in the head repeatedly. The paramedics pronounced the guy dead at the scene. The girl was transported to a local hospital for observation, and the girl was okay, besides for obvious mental trauma, and there was no charges filed against the father.
So now just imagine. Now, I don't know, did you find out who the guy was? Was he like a ranch hand? Was he
No, it didn't say. He kept all the details very, very hush-hush about it.
Right, so...
Just the fact that he beat this guy to death.
Right, so, I mean, obviously the differences that we could play out in the situations are, was the guy like his brother? Was the guy his employee? Was the guy's neighbor? Was the guy a complete stranger? Was the guy somebody like a teacher, a school teacher who is charged with protecting or looking over, the child. Like there are a lot of different ways to look at it, but it's kind of hard to imagine any other outcome.
Yeah, like
no matter who it is.
Yeah, no, you find that you stumble upon that guy dies,
right?
And as brutally and as violently as you can muster,
right. And is volunteering to do so by
100%
by doing that.
And the guy, the sheriff, he said that the guy's well within his rights. He's protecting a third party. He's protecting his daughter, who is under imminent danger. So he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
You hit him until he stops moving. I mean, that's how it goes.
And it's Texas.
Yeah, and it's Texas. They were like, fuck it.
There are some very liberal parts of Texas, I'm hearing.
That's good.
And that's terrible. And
I was being ironical.
And I hope you guys in Texas hold it down. We have a lot of listeners from Texas.
That's awesome.
I get great feedback from Texas all the time.
Best steak I have ever had.
Yeah, Bob's in Dallas, right?
Bone-in filet.
Bone-in filet. Did I have the same one?
Yeah.
What did I have?
You had a bone-in filet. That was
unbelievable.
Legit.
Bob's in Dallas, greatest steak. I have steaks all over the world.
Yeah, that
all
one
over
was
the
ridiculous.
World. I went to Brazil, had a steak. Everywhere in the U.S.
all over the fucking world.
All over my travel itinerary.
Correct.
But yeah,
Texas.
So Texas guys still
fucking
getting it
legit.
right. Next one.
J.C. Maynor, vigilante father. He gunned down a child rapist in 2002 who was convicted of molesting his 8-year-old daughter. He drove his motorcycle to the home of Raymond Earl Brooks and opened fire, killing Brooks and injuring his mother. Brooks had been out of prison since February 2005. He served 27 months of a 5-year prison sentence. So
just imagine that. You have an 8-year-old little girl. Some guy molests her.
Yeah.
Gets a 5-year prison sentence.
Yeah.
Only serves 27 months.
Good.
And is out.
That's good.
But now,
because now he's out, and now there he is.
But now, and this is the sort of disparity between what the law is and what actual justice is.
Correct.
Like the more I research this, right, and the more I'm reading about different psychologists and psychiatrists discussing pedophilia, they say there is no way to stop these people.
Well, then, yeah.
There is no way, or I should say there's
always a way.
There is no way to cure them.
No,
right?
You can't cure them.
You can't cure homosexuality, right? You can't pray the gay away.
No.
Can't do it. You can't cure all of these different sexual preferences. This is their sexual identity.
Yeah.
So they're never going to not be a predator to children.
Yeah, the pedophiles, yeah.
Right. So it's like, what is it that you're supposed to do? Like, what's the recourse? And I don't know. Let's get into the last one, which is pretty crazy. And it's this paragraph and this one.
And we'll have to put the video up for that.
Yeah, for this next one.
So Leon Gary, how do you say his last name again? Plauche?
Plouch.
I think it's Plauche.
Is it?
Yeah.
Get crazy.
Plauche.
Yeah, Plauche, yeah.
Yeah. I just it's Plauche. Plauche Ponson. So known for the 1984 killing of Jeff Doucette, who kidnapped and sexually assaulted his son Jody Plauche. Plauche, yeah, that's what it is. The killing occurred Friday, March 16, 1984. It was captured on camera by a television news crew. Although Plauche shot and killed Doucette, he was given 5 years probation for the shooting and received no jail time. Right. Deeper into that story is the next thing, where his son was taking karate lessons, and his karate instructor, Jeffrey Doucette, had been sexually abusing him for at least a year.
So was abusing him for a year, his 11-year-old son.
And then in February, he kidnapped Jody and took him to a motel in California where he sexually assaulted and molested him. Police searched for Jody and eventually found them after Doucette made a phone call to call his mother from the motel. They raided, and he was arrested without incident. And so, then, as they were taking him,
right,
the father,
So the way it happened was they went and they found him. They got him. Now, where are they originally from? Does it say?
I have no idea.
Do you remember?
California?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Kidnapped. All right. Well, it said he took him to California, but whatever. So The kidnapper who was this boy's karate coach.
Yeah.
Took him to California. Was in a motel. Called his mom. Kidnapper called his own mom.
Yeah.
Police found out. They sicked the California cops on him. They got him without incident. They were bringing him back.
Yeah, they were bringing him back.
So the news crews are there. They're waiting in the airport. Cops land with Jeff Doucette. He's hands handcuffed and he's walking through the airport. And as they're walking through, you see a man who was there in plain sight the whole time on a payphone turn around, and it's the father. Revolver right up to his temple.
Yep.
Good night, Irene. And
fucking awesome.
And you hear the cops yelling in the video. We'll share the video if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah,
we'll you hear the cops yelling. They're going. Leon. No, Gary. Why? Gary. Why?
Yeah, Gary. Why?
He's like, why the fuck do you think?
Yeah.
And one of the police officers had said he was a police officer at the time, or a detective at the time. He was now like a federal prosecutor, or something years later. Now they're interviewing.
Correct.
Him. And he said that at the time he had asked, like, well, how could you do such a thing? And he said that, the father, Leon Gary Pluchet, had said if it was your child, you would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Like, what was I supposed to do?
Yeah. And like, I'm it's funny because
he did a great job.
It was very well done.
Like, it was very well done.
I remember having this argument. It had to be like, I guess it was around Sandy Hook.
Okay.
During the Sandy Hook incident. So a few years ago at this point. And arguing with some kid that I went to high school with him and his wife. More so his wife. Now the kid I went to high school with, not a bad kid. He was sort of an introvert, like a guy in the fringes. Very smart kid, but sort of a dick. Like with some people, like they don't have any friends. But you sort of see why. They act like they don't want any either. It's like, he was harmless. I never, had a problem with him. But years later, as the case, often enough nowadays, we reconnect with people that we went to school with. Yeah. So it's like, why not do a friend request, whatever the fuck. And the Sandy Hook thing came up. And I'm almost certain it was on my friend's page. That he had put some typical liberal talking point, this is why guns should be banned and the Second Amendment should be repealed. And, and I said, as, typical, man position who believes in the Constitution, said, just because a psycho broke the rules doesn't mean we change the rules.
Yeah.
Like anybody could steal a gun. It doesn't mean we ban guns.
We can't have Superman take all the guns and throw them into the sun.
It's true, because even then it doesn't work out. You get the fucking
Atomic
nucleus,
Man.
You get the Malibu Superman.
Yeah, Malibu Superman comes and fucking kills everyone.
So then the wife and I were arguing, and one of the things she said was,
wait, his wife chimed in?
Yeah, his wife chimed in and called
that's
me,
awesome.
Called me a savage, called me super violent, called me hyper masculine. So I was like, I'm already getting along with the wife.
So the wife's turned on.
So she says, you shouldn't even be trusted around children. And, not getting emotional over a fucking argument, I replied to her, like, you guys have a child. Are you telling me, because she said in no circumstances would she ever use a firearm to shoot somebody.
Sure.
So I said, if you, and I wish this is like before I started screen capturing fucking these things.
Yeah.
I said, if there was a loaded pistol on a table and somebody was entering into your home and was going to kidnap or do harm to your child, are you telling me that you would not, given the opportunity, put rounds into that person?
Yeah.
No, under no circumstances.
Okay.
And he would understand that, and he, like, literally, like,
what?
He would understand that.
Who's he, the kid?
And I don't fucking know. No, the kidnapper or the guy that was doing harm would understand that she had the power to kill him, but didn't, and it would make him just delusion.
What
just
the
complete
fuck?
Delusion. So my response was, you shouldn't be allowed around fucking children.
Yeah, that's
because could you imagine if you're the child that has that protecting you?
That's ridiculous.
Right. So
just leave the door open and put a sign outside.
Right.
Free kids. Come take my kids.
Free kids. No gun zone.
No guns. We have no weapons or any way to stop you, and we understand your needs, and we'll let you take our children.
Right. So there are circumstances by which, even the most sort of passive and nonviolent of us parents know that we have, to answer the call to action.
Yeah.
And somebody molesting our children, like that's right at the top of the list.
Yes.
Especially for dads, and the reason I'll say especially for dads is, traditionally, we're the warriors. We're the ones who are charged with protecting the tribe.
Yeah.
And this is a complete assault, on that obligation on our end.
Yeah.
So the fucking people. So aside from these cases of, I would say very justified vigilantism, we also have some pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Who have varying levels of popularity, notoriety, fame,
infamy,
who had chose to gone the opposite direction.
Yeah.
To go the opposite direction. And we have two cases that, one of them everyone's heard of. Another one I just heard about today.
Yeah, me too. It's really fucked up though.
But let's go through these cases.
All right. So Ian Watkins, pedophile rock star, Ian Watkins.
Pedophile rock star.
Yeah, that's his title. He was told he had plummeted to new depths of depravity as he was jailed for 35 years for a string of horrific child sex offenses, including the attempted rape of a baby. Like, what the fuck?
Yep.
All right. So he even spoke with a female fan from prison the day after admitting to trying to have sex with an 11-month-old boy, and said he would issue a statement saying that had been mega LOLs.
Right. So
or lulls. Do you say lulls?
I've never pronounced that.
Yeah, this is the first time.
So basically, he was making a mockery of it.
Yeah, and he did some other shit too. He had child porn that he made,
right,
and all kinds of fucking crazy shit.
And the psychiatrist called him a very committed and determined pedophile.
Yeah, one of the most dangerous pedophiles they've ever come across, because he didn't give a fuck and would just keep doing
No regret.
None.
And the baby that he attempted to rape was actually the child of a fan, a groupie.
Yeah, first he touched the baby inappropriately, and then tried to I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, so that was Ian Watkins, 35 years. Hopefully he'll get a fucking screwdriver in the neck before then.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And number two, everybody's
old,
favorite pedophile.
Our good old Jerry Sandusky.
Sandusky-Rooney.
Yeah. So in 2011, following a 2-year grand jury investigation, Sandusky was arrested and charged with 52 counts of sexual abuse of young boys over a 15-year period from 1994 to 2009.
52
Holy
counts.
Shit. He met his molestation victims through the Second Mile, who were children participating in the organization, and several of them testified against Sandusky in his sexual abuse trial. On June 22nd, 2012, Sandusky was found guilty of 45 of the 48 remaining charges. He was sentenced on October 9th to 30 to 60 years in prison. At his age, effectively a life sentence. And they're trying to appeal it, and they're trying to do other shit. But
they can do whatever the fuck they want. Now, Sandusky was an assistant coach with the Penn State football team.
Yeah.
And it pretty much disgraced the legacy of Joe Paterno.
Correct.
Because in the investigation, it had come out that there were incidents that Joe Paterno had to know about. Like he had to have said, throw it under the rug, or at least went along with. I think the athletic director at the time was fired, and I think there was a lot of other blowback. But it's like the entire Penn State football program was just thrown in the shitter, and rightfully so, I would say. Not the players' faults, obviously, and all those people had nothing to do with it, but Fuck Sandusky.
Jesus
Christ.
fucking Christ. Now, if you're Joe Paterno and you find out about that, I mean, it's time to go mice and men style.
You know, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. I mean, if you're Joe Paterno, they're not any of his kids that are being molested. You know, you've known this guy, you know, for years, for decades. You know, I go to him and I say, look, you're getting thrown under the bus.
Or you say, hey, look, come look at the flowers.
Just look at the flowers.
Just look at the flowers.
Just look at the flowers. You know, but
tell me about the rabbits.
Tell me about the rabbits.
Tell me about the rabbits.
So the whole thing is, you know, when you have somebody who you know is a pedophile, you know, you like that is immediately on you. Like it is it's a bomb that was placed in your hands.
Yeah.
You know, and like what do you do with the bomb? You can't just hold on to it, you know, because that's the way it is, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
you know?
it's true, 100%.
And who knows if he was, you know, don't say this, it'll ruin the football program, or if he was, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want, you know, it was too overwhelming.
It could have been a thing. Who knows?
It doesn't matter. You got a bomb placed right in your fucking hands. You got to do something.
And it's going to hurt people. So you got to do something about it.
Absolutely. You got to do the right thing.
Yeah,
right.
And you can't just pass it off.
All right. So,
look at the flowers.
So look at the flowers. So the whole thing is, you know, now with pedophiles, they can't be cured.
Well,
or they can be stopped. It still doesn't cure them.
I guess so.
Cure them is bring them to the state that they're not pedophiles. You know, just removing their state, period.
Yeah, true. Okay. I'll go with that. They cannot be cured.
They cannot be cured. They, you know, have a condition that has them assault and prey on children, the defenseless.
Yeah, by its very definition of their affliction.
Because there's wacky shit. You know, there's like very, very unfairly, the homosexual community was thrust at one point, and still to this day, depending on where you're at in the world, with being very closely related to pedophilia.
Which is bullshit.
Which is nonsense, you know. But there are all types of sort of just sexual deviations, you know.
Sure.
And meaning just deviating away from, you know, what is, you know, natural in the sense that, you know, we have to procreate the species.
Yeah.
But none of those, or none of the common ones, have anything to do with preying on defenseless children.
Yeah, just because you're homosexual doesn't mean you want to fuck kids.
Right.
And a while, that's what kind of like they put the two together,
right.
Which is nonsense.
And I'm very much, you know, listen, do whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever gets your dick hard. Just
in your
not
house,
kids.
Get crazy. You know, do whatever you want. I have no judgment. I have no moral dilemma because of any religious reasons. Or I don't give a shit.
I don't think you're going to hell because it doesn't exist. Let's talk about Helheim.
Right. And, you know, but, you know, it's, you know, what do you do with these fucking pedophiles?
No kids. You fucking, what do you mean? What do you do?
Yeah, but it's like, all right. We listened to this this
painful
podcast, right? This interview.
Yeah.
And there was a 19-year-old, what podcast was it?
NPR, This American Life.
This American Life. And during the episode, you have like a 19-year-old who identifies
as a pedophile. Correct.
Says he's never acted on it.
Yeah. Aside from watching copious amounts of fucking pornography.
Right. And, you know, says that he started a support group like online where they all say it's wrong to act on their urges.
And they haven't, allegedly. None of the members of the group have.
Right. One guy tried to enter the group
and fucked a 5-year-old, done some shit, and they said, you can't
do that. You should tell somebody that you did that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like if you're a pedophile and if you're him, this 19-year-old, and somebody tried to join your group and says, well, look, I had sex with a 5-year-old, you know, why is the reaction to not set this guy up to bring him to justice?
I would say that would be the smart
thing. You know, like, are you really opposed to this?
Yeah.
Or like, it's like a bunch of vampires. Like, yeah, I killed another one. It's like, oh, damn it. You know, True Blood. I keep telling you, True Blood. You know, but you know, how much you really opposed, if you're so opposed to it. You know,
it would be like, let him in the group, let him talk.
Find out who he is and
jail.
Yeah, you know, but anyway. So, you know, one of the things that you see with people who are very much interested in developing therapy modalities for these people, they say they can't be a backlash. There can't be a backlash when somebody identifies as a pedophile, because then nobody will identify one and we won't know how to help them. They're saying statistics, and this all makes sense. Statistics are either incomplete or completely inaccurate, because the only statistics they really are able to gather are through criminals.
Yeah.
Who say, oh, I've only done this once. I'm not like, there's so many reasons for it.
Yeah.
But it's just a fucked up situation. And like, I don't have an answer for it. Like I could only say what I would do to, with my children.
Sure.
Somebody does anything to prey on my children, I'm coming for you, collectively in society, you have a pedophile, did a pedophile act on it? Did they not act on it? And then you have the gray area to deal with. And meaning, like, this is a fucking confusing situation. Like, let's say you have a guy who's 25 years old. He has a picture on his computer of a 13-year-old girl, but the 13-year-old girl is dressed up, and the visual, you think she's 18.
Okay.
It's like they pick him up. Child pornography. Now if he's found guilty, he's a fucking, what is it?
Sex offender.
A sex offender.
A registered sex offender.
For the rest of his life. Like, goes on the list. Like,
yeah, which we saw some people doing shit where they get that list and start killing people on that list.
Right. So it's like one of those things where it's like, fuck, man, we gotta iron this shit out.
Yeah.
And this is what my position is. Like, we really need to sit down and talk about these different classifications. Do we call everybody who has sex with a 16-year-old a pedophile? Like, no, like, you can't,
Yeah.
But let's move on. Oh yeah, we have our mantelpiece.
Yeah, we have our mantelpiece.
So we were trying to think of what we were going to use as a mantelpiece for an episode on pedophiles.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I ain't putting anything cool on that damn desk.
No.
So we decided to use a hand sanitizer to get the icky away. Right. So this is such an icky topic. We're going to use the hand sanitizer, and that's going to be our mantelpiece.
Kills the most germs.
It kills the most germs. Use some. So that's our mantelpiece. I had another cool one, and Pat was like, "You really want to segue from a pedophile to talk?" And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It's not going to play out well. So this is going to be just a throwaway mantelpiece.
Yeah.
For the pedophiles. So
killing germs.
So pressure player. Filmmaker Jan Willem Breuer.
Okay.
He made a documentary called "Are All Men Pedophiles?"
Yeah.
And some of the things about this documentary. Now, admittedly, I did not watch it from beginning to end, but I have seen many clips and subsequent interviews with the filmmaker, and a lot of criticisms and support for it. It's an award-winning documentary. It did receive a bunch of notoriety, and his whole contention was, based on society's very generated or PC version of what a pedophile is.
Yeah.
We all fit the bill. He was saying at one point, there was a Playboy talk show, right, or a news show. What's a Sextopia, something like that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sextopia.
Yeah.
And they had done a survey for viewers of at what age do you think the female body is most attractive? Paraphrasing, it might not have been that, illicit.
It might have been pornocopia.
Pornocopia?
Could have been one of the two.
I don't know. But they had asked, they said 16.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different, even people now, they're going to hear that, and they're going to say, well, no, that's disgusting.
No,
was it disgusting? I remember when I was 16 and I had 16-year-old girlfriends.
Yeah, I was 16.
I didn't mind the way she looked at 16. But it's now I'm 40, and looking at a 16-year-old that way is completely different.
It is.
But it's different socially. it's different maturity wise.
Of course.
I wouldn't say it's different biologically. I wouldn't say I would have to be some sort of a deviant to still say that what I said at 17 at 40.
That's why I like high school girls. I get older, they stay the same age.
What's that from?
That's from Dazed and Confused.
All right, you have to say that.
Matthew McConaughey.
Because if they don't know that.
Of course.
They're like, what is wrong with him? You can't just say that.
That's a quote from that movie. Yep.
So,
but it applies.
So, no, absolutely. So that's the whole thing. Let's say, I'm 15. I have a 15-year-old girlfriend. Let's say she and I are sexually active. And I say, I love having sex with my 15-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then I say it the next day. Right?
Yeah.
And then I say it the next day.
Okay.
And then I keep saying it every day. But now I'm 40. And now I'm saying, I love having sex with my 15-year-old girlfriend. At what point does it become now like, am I a predator? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, well, that's a fucking, I don't know. I could have tightened that up a little bit. Like I'm not saying at 40 you meet a 15-year-old girl, have sex and be like, what? It's just like I'm 15. What I'm saying
I'm 15 in my heart.
What I'm saying is there is an acceptable sort of situation where a male can say it is enjoyable or can acknowledge having sex with a 15-year-old female, and society accepts it.
There are times. There are many times.
So it's, is it the 15-year-old girl that the society does not accept having sex, or does it not accept who's having sex with her? Which I would argue is the case.
Yeah.
So two different positions.
True.
But to differentiate that, and I'm restating what I had said earlier, there's never an acceptable time for a prepubescent child, to be sexually molested, no matter what framework it's presented as,
Agreed. There's no fucking excuse for that shit.
Right. So, Are All Men Pedophiles? Pretty cool documentary.
Yeah.
Very taboo subject matter, and the reason we're making, the filmmaker Jan Willem Brewer, the pressure player, is because he's a very, articulated, well thought out presenter of this information in this subject. And the position he raises of the inconsistency in our assessment of who a pedophile is a valid one, I would say.
I agree.
And I'd say we really do need to start making a differentiation between, the 15-year-old girl who's having sex and the person who's having sex with the 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Not
100%.
Not one broad brush for all of them.
Agreed.
It's funny, we, being that we have the martial arts schools, we're always on the watchdog sites,
always
for the sex offenders. And, the way that they're presented on the site is, in the little blips on a map.
Yep.
And the different colors. And the red blips, like those are the fucking worst.
Yeah.
But like you see a different color blip, he's done just the way the other fucking guy is.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Like nobody really gives a shit. You're on that map, on that fucking site, you're fucked.
That's it.
Right? But maybe you're the 18-year-old guy who had sex with his 15-year-old girlfriend.
And the parents got pissed.
And all that shit ensued. But meanwhile, they were high school sweethearts, and now he's just 18. There are too many situations where that happens. When you factor in then, and this has nothing to do with pedophiles, by the way, but when you start factoring in the very, sort of feminist centric identity of so many of these watchdog movements.
True.
You do see the guys getting railroaded in those gray area situations.
Yeah, which we went over in the Really Rape episode.
Right, absolutely.
In detail as far as age differences and the breakdown of that.
Absolutely. So check out that documentary, Are All Men Pedophiles? It's short. It's like an hour and 15 minutes or something. The Unicorn, the Dutch courts.
Yeah.
Okay. So now these fucking guys, now admittedly, this is like 2006. But I'm going to read this little blip. A court at The Hague has refused to outlaw the political party that supports legalized pedophilia and child pornography. The Brotherly Love, Freedom, and Diversity Party has received a nod from Judge HFM Hofhuis, who has said the group has the same right to exist as any other political party. The party, which has only 3 known members, by the way, seeks to lower the age of sexual consent from 16 to 12. They want to legalize child pornography and sex with animals. They argue that prohibitions only make children curious.
Interesting.
Like, why one of the founders, the president of this political party, said something to the effect of, by not allowing children to have sex with adults, we're robbing them from their natural curiosities. It's like, fuck. No. So the reason we're making the Dutch courts, the unicorn, because it's like, take your fucking head out of your ass.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those things, okay, these people are saying we want to have sex with children. And you're like, all right.
You're like, you have the right to say that. Fuck you.
They have the right to go buy a fucking cheeseburger. They have the right to walk down the street. They have the right to get a driver's license. But you start talking about a political party where these very things are argued for and potentially legislated for. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, you don't get to do that.
How do you make a political party, validate a political party whose premise is against the law?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. So, Dutch courts, fuck you guys.
Correct.
All right. Penis fly trap.
Yes.
Oh, man, it was rough to start.
It was rough to start, but now we've settled down.
We've settled down a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Yeah.
We shared our personal views on it. Break it down, Pat.
So, pedophiles, there's no room in society for them. That's what I think. I don't think they shouldn't exist. They do exist, so therefore they should be removed from society by any means necessary. Whether that means put them in jail, whether that means, not having to exist on this earth, I don't give a fuck, but I'd prefer the second one. There's just no room for it. There's no excuse for it. It's terrible, and it should be stamped out of existence. That's it.
If you're a pedophile and you're listening to this, don't tell anybody you're a pedophile. Just go away. Just remove yourself. Don't pray, because that's what you're doing. You have no rights. You have no rights on somebody else. I'd argue against pedophilia like I would argue against universal health care. Your rights don't include, other people. Children are the most vulnerable, innocent, and sacred elements of our existence, in my opinion, at least. And if you are such a predator that you could only prey on the weakest, of us, that should tell you where you fall on the line. If anybody were to ever harm one of my own, there wouldn't be a place on the earth that you would be able to run. And so pedophiles, if you're listening, understand that is what who you are elicits in people. The most emotional, violent, passionate thoughts and feelings come to the surface when even discussing your very nature. Remove yourself. Remove yourself from being around people that you will harm. Because there is no repression. There's no repression of who you are and what you do. There's no repression of your need, your desire to go and victimize children. You can't control that. You can castrate yourself.
Yeah.
That's been proven to work a little bit more than nothing. But behavior is behavior. Tendencies are tendencies. What you know and what you know is what you know. It's something that we're always going to have to deal with, but it's something that will always be dealt with. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you, folks, for listening. This has been another incredible episode.
Yeah.
pissing me off, thinking violent thoughts.
Yep. Just a little bit.
We shared a lot of violent stuff, but you guys have no idea what's going on through my head. Cartel type shit. But anyway,
Yeah.
we do appreciate you guys spending some time with us. This is the end of episode 99.
That is correct.
Episode 100, folks. Oh, man. We got a good one.
It's legit.
It's already recorded. Prepped, ready to go.
It's ready to rock.
And we think you guys who have been with us this entire time will like the nice little milestone episode of 100.
I agree.
ThePressureProject.com is our website. Info@ThePressureProject.com is our contact email. YouTube.com/ThePressureProject is our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Okay. You need an account. You need to be signed in and then subscribe. We're trying to collect as many subscriptions as possible. Also, I wanted to mention, there are a lot of things that we email to the people that are signed up on the website.
Yeah.
That many of you have no idea about. For instance, the leadership episode.
Yeah.
We had that whole
9 codes of a great leader.
The 9 codes. We had a whole PDF that we mailed out to our subscribers.
Yep.
And if you guys aren't subscribed, you have no idea about that.
True.
So you can go on the website, and where can they sign up for the that list?
You can sign up for that list on the main page of the website. You'll see a box that says click here for updates. Also on the show notes pages, there's always 2 places to sign up. You can also sign up on the YouTube videos at the bottom. It says subscribe.
In the description.
In the description, yeah. You can subscribe there. And pretty much that's all you need to do.
Yeah. Any of our sites where it says subscribe.
Yep. Enter your name and email and you're all set.
Right. So if you subscribe on the YouTube channel, it doesn't give you our newsletter.
It does.
How do you do that?
Magic.
Do you really?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
How do you do that?
I just link it. I make sure everyone gets everything.
So if somebody subscribes on the YouTube channel,
Yes.
you could send them a PDF.
Yeah.
How?
Because they're subscribing to the list, not subscribing to the YouTube channel. Does that make sense? Oh, we're confusing terminology.
We?
I am. If they subscribe,
Boom! Victory! Loser!
If you subscribe on the link in the description, you get the newsletter. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get updates on the YouTube videos.
It's not Mr. Chim.
Yeah. All good. Everything's cleared up.
So I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
This, by the way, happens 50 times a day. I'm going to say it again. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you're not going to get the updates. You have to subscribe on our site or the link to our site that's in the description of the YouTube videos.
That is correct. 100% correct.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Enjoying our post-podcast banter.
Yeah, as
we
always.
look forward to talking to you the next time, guys. And as always, pressure to power.